During the Second World War, Romania initially fought alongside the Axis powers on the Eastern Front against the Soviet Union. However, later on, Romania switched sides, turning its weapons against Nazi Germany and joining the Allies to contribute to the liberation of Europe from Nazi occupation. Towards the end of the war, Romania found itself on the defeated side and signed the Peace Treaty of Paris in 1947. But why did Romania choose to change sides? Let's find out together. In the interwar period, Romania experienced significant economic and cultural development. However, at the beginning of the Second World War, Romania found itself caught between Hitler's and Stalin's spheres of influence in Eastern Europe. In 1939, the major powers of the time agreed to the invasion of Czechoslovakia. During the same year, King Carol II had a meeting with Hitler, who requested Romania to form an alliance with Germany and install the Legionnaires' Party in power. The King of Romania did not succumb to intimidation, but what he didn't know was that, through the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, the USSR and Germany had already divided their spheres of influence in Eastern Europe. Following the pact, Bessarabia and Bukovina were supposed to return to the Soviet Union. On September 1, 1939, Germany invaded Poland, leading France and Great Britain to declare war. Romania was expected to come to the aid of its ally, but the complex political situation in the country made such a move unwise. Despite this, Romania allowed the President of the Republic of Poland, members of the government, and the Supreme Commander of the Polish Army to take refuge on its territory. Another 100,000 Poles sought refuge in Romania and were sympathetically received by the Romanian public. The Polish treasury was transported through Romania and loaded onto a British ship in the port of Constanța. Isolated from its traditional allies, England and France, and surrounded by hostile neighbors, Romania declared its neutrality on September 6, 1939. On June 26, 1940, Romania received a Soviet ultimatum to relinquish Bessarabia and northern Bukovina. In the morning of the 27th, King Carol II convened the Council of Ministers. In the first session, they voted against ceding the territories, but by the evening's second session, something changed, and they voted in favor of ceding the territories. King Carol II noted in his journal, "Our Romanians have the smallest dose of national pride in these truly difficult moments. It's a day of national shame. Romania did not play its strategic position as it should have. With a much smaller army than the Soviet Union, Romania wouldn't have resisted in the war for more than 2 to 3 weeks. However, Romania's oil fields had significant strategic importance for the Nazi army. Certainly, the Germans would not have allowed Romania to enter the sphere of influence of the USSR. On August 30, 1940, Romania suffered another blow when, through the Vienna Dictate, it lost northern Transylvania to Hungary. The demarcation of Romania's borders was personally supervised by Hitler, who had a direct interest in the oil fields in the Prahova Valley. The new borders extended to less than 50 kilometers from these oil fields. Then on September 7, 1940, Romania also lost the southern Dobruja. After King Carol II established the royal dictatorship on February 11th and drafting a new constitution, the loss of approximately 30% of the country's territory forced him to resolve the crisis by forming the Ion Antonescu Horia Sima government through a royal decree. Taking advantage of the suspension of the constitution and the dissolution of the parliament, Antonescu demanded the king's abdication on September 6, 1940, forming the National Legionary State with Horia Sima as Vice President of the Council of Ministers and Minister Secretary of State. On the same day, King Michael, the son of Carol II, was crowned, and a decree was issued giving Antonescu full powers as the leader of the Romanian state. After the territorial losses in 1940, Romania became isolated on the international stage. Under pressure, the country found itself joining the sphere of influence of Germany by signing the Tripartite Pact on November 23, 1940. The Iron Guard and the Legionary movement, once in power, were loyal to the Nazi regime in Germany. However, for strategic reasons, Hitler preferred Antonescu to lead Romania, simultaneously using the legionary movement as a counterbalance or threat to prevent any potential disobedience. Upon gaining power, the Iron Guard unleashed a wave of reprisals against supporters of the previous parliamentary regime, killing 60 former dignitaries in the Jilava prison on November 27, 1940, including the historian and former Prime Minister Nicolae Iorga and economist Virgil Majaru. In the following months, the mixed government made corruption official, and human rights, freedom of expression, and property were left at the discretion of the legionnaires. Antonescu utilized the legionnaires for activities he didn't want to directly involve himself in. Feeling his position threatened, Antonescu went to Berlin on January 14, 1941, seeking Hitler's help to remove the legionnaires from power. The meeting was successful, prompting Hitler to declare, "In all of Europe, I know two heads of state with whom I like to work, Mussolini and Antonescu." In response, the legionnaires carried out a series of terrorist actions, robberies, and massacres. On January 21, 1941, the legionary rebellion erupted and was suppressed by the army. On January 27, 1941, Antonescu formed a new government consisting of military officials and technocrats, introducing a military dictatorship. This dictatorship lacked a specific ideology and was not supported by a mass political party. After a meeting on June 10, 1941, between Antonescu and Hitler in Munich, Romania entered the war on the side of the Axis, with the promise that it would regain the territories lost in 1940. On June 22, 1941, the invasion of the Soviet Union began with Operation Barbarossa. The Romanian army crossed the Prut River, attacking the Soviet Union alongside Germany and its allies. Despite the military action appearing to be initiated by Romania through Antonescu's order, famously saying, "Soldiers, I order you, cross the Prut," the Romanian army was operating under German orders. Antonescu expressed admiration for the German army in this order, stating phrases like, "You will fight shoulder to shoulder with the most powerful and glorious army in the world," and "Be worthy of the honor bestowed upon you by the history of the army of the Great Reich and its unparalleled commander, Adolf Hitler." It is noteworthy that the Romanian royal family learned of Romania's entry into the war from the radio the next day. King Michael later clarified, "Antonescu had taken matters into his own hands, and I had become a bystander." By the end of June, the occupied territories in northern Bukovina and Bessarabia had been liberated by Romanian forces. At that time, leaders of political parties, Iuliu Maniu and Constantin Bratianu, sent a memorandum to Antonescu, urging him to halt the Romanian troops and not venture into a war that was not Romania's own. Antonescu disregarded their advice and ordered the Romanian armies to continue the invasion of the Soviet Union alongside the Axis forces. Initially, his foreign policy proved successful, with Romania briefly regaining the territories ceded to the Soviet Union, including Transnistria, which came under Romanian administration. After the offensive against Odessa in 1941, where the Romanian army suffered significant losses of around 60,000 soldiers, more military leaders began to contest Antonescu's decision to continue the war and criticized his leadership style. Over 80 senior officers were placed on reserve due to the perceived lack of offensive spirit and confidence in the Romanian army's fighting capability. Among them was General Nicolae Ciuperca, the commander of the Romanian Fourth Army. With a weakened and poorly equipped military, Romania continued to engage in extremely difficult battles in Crimea and the Caucasus, which became catastrophic, resulting in losses of over 500,000 Romanian soldiers. In the Battle of Stalingrad alone, Romanian troops suffered over 180,000 casualties and enormous material damage. During this period, the anti-Semitic movements of Antonescu's regime gained momentum. Romania became the only state, apart from Nazi Germany, to establish and operate its own extermination camp in Podolia, Ukraine, where over 100,000 Jews perished. Tens of thousands of Jews were killed in Odessa, and approximately 22,000 Jews were burned alive at Dalnik and Bogdanovka. Following the failure of the German offensive to capture Moscow and the imminent defeat at Stalingrad, Antonescu became interested in finding a way to exit the conflict. From September 1942 until August 23, 1944, Romanian diplomats, on behalf of the government in Bucharest, explored possibilities with the Allies for a separate peace. Amidst the strong Soviet offensive at the beginning of 1944, the Romanian government halted these negotiations when the condition for the armistice was unconditional surrender, a condition rejected by Antonescu. On August 23, 1944, due to Antonescu's outright refusal to admit such an armistice and with Soviet forces on Romanian soil, King Michael, with the support of opposition parties, dismissed and arrested Antonescu. On the same day, the king broadcasted the proclamation to the country, announcing the return to a democratic regime, the conclusion of the war with the Allies, and the turning of arms against the Axis forces. On September 12th, Romania signed the armistice with the Allies, committing to contribute 38 divisions to the anti-Hitlerist combat effort. Romania actively participated in the liberation of Hungary and Czechoslovakia, mobilizing over 500,000 soldiers for this purpose. Although the USSR's annexation of Bessarabia and northern Bukovina and Bulgaria's recovery of southern Dobruja were definitively recognized, Romania's contribution on the side of the Allies did not go unnoticed. Northern Transylvania was once again acknowledged as an integral part of Romania, up to the border delineated in 1920. So, in less than 5 years, Romania went from being a neutral state to an ally of the Axis powers, only to later turn its weapons against Nazi Germany and fight alongside the Allies. The decision to switch sides might be viewed by many as betrayal, but in my opinion, considering Romania was caught between the major powers of that time, Germany and the Soviet Union, it didn't have many choices. The decision to switch sides could be seen as an act of survival. If you think Romanian leaders should have acted differently, feel free to leave a comment with your opinions. If you've watched the video until the end, please subscribe to help grow the community and keep me motivated to continue making videos. Thank you for watching.